Okay, so my name is Ayodeji, or you can call me Lord Sarcastic, and I'm the host for DevMeets. We've been doing this for about 2-3 years right now. And today we'll be having Tuedon on board to speak to us on IndexedDB API. It's a front-end API. It's a front-end functionality that acts very similar to a database. So Tuedon will be speaking to us on that topic. And Tuedon is a front-end developer, highly experienced. He's one person that if you really want quick job with lots of perfectionism on ground as high stakes, Tuedon is your guy. He's a software engineer at Tech Cabal, also software engineer at I can't remember the name of the other company. But yeah. So Tuedon, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right, I would like to see your face.
Okay. Well, hopefully they don't take lights while doing this guy. So this is
No problem, no problem.
because I'm in Nigeria.
Yeah, good to see you here. All right, so Tuedon, the floor is yours. Go ahead, introduce yourself and then your topic.
Cool. Which one is it? Okay, it's this one. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tuedon. I write code to put food on the table, and I'm also a full-time Liverpool fan. Forgive me, I'm having a cold, so my voice will be like down a little. Today, we will be talking about exploring the power of IndexedDB API. And IndexedDB API, IndexedDB rather, is storage on the client side, which you can find in your browser. Yeah, so today we would be talking about browser storage, what is IndexedDB, and using IndexedDB on the browser where we would like write some code and also a brief summary. Now, yeah, we'll be introducing some browser storage, the common browser storage. First is cookies. Most people are familiar with cookies. So cookies are just these small bits of data. They have a very little space. They're like about 4 kilobytes. And yeah, they are always sent to the server on every HTTP request. So that's why they're like small. I did want to test to see the limit of so we can like see the limits of the cookies, but every time I try to do that, my browser crashes, and I would not want my browser to crash on this call. The next we'll be looking at, which again is also common, is local storage. So local storage, yeah, is a web storage that uses like key value. So we have the key where you can name your file, and you also have a value where most times it's a string, and it also has a limit of about 5 MB. Yeah. So permit me, I want to show how to like test the limit of the local storage. Where do we have this? Okay, let me stop presenting and present the entire screen. Cool. So we go to console and yeah, let's go. So we want to test ls limits. Oh, sorry, I'm having a code. Ls limits. So what we're basically going to do is okay. Again, we'll go test ls limits. Test ls equals to new array. We're just going to do 5 times 1400, 1024, 1024, and most likely +1. And we would have a dot join string of A. So what this is going to do is literally going to add this character about 5 MB. I'm just a little more than 5 MB on the local storage. So for us to add that on the local storage, we do local storage dot set item, and we have a key value which you can just put test limit
2,000. The one on.
and test ls. So yeah, we should have an error which says hi, you have like exceeded the quota for your storage. So this is literally to show you that you can't store more than 5 MB on. You can't store more than 5 MB on local storage. Yeah. Turning off my camera. Okay, cool. So the next one we'll be having is session storage. Now, session storage is the same. It's close like to the same thing as local storage, but the difference is that once you like close a tab or you close your window, the data for session storage just like vanishes. So it's only, as the name sounds, it's only stored on each session. Yeah. So what is the IndexedDB? So this is our main topic for today. So according to MDN, IndexedDB is a low-level API for client storage of significant amounts of structured data, including files and blobs. I'm sure they have to like include files and blobs because other storage, they are not able to store files and blobs, so they can't store images, they can't store videos and all. And this is where IndexedDB shines. They are able to store files, images, and whatever whatever type like JavaScript has. And it has like more space, more than the usual 5 MB for local storage and 5 MB for session storage. Okay, yeah. So for you to locate IndexedDB on your browser, you just need to go to your spec tab, move to applications, and then open IndexedDB. Yeah. So some few pros and cons for using IndexedDB. One, which I've said, is it has a large storage capacity. And so the capacity is usually directly not equivalent, but usually dependent on the user's storage on the laptop. So let's say, for example, the user has about 10 gig of space. IndexedDB could, depending on the user settings, could be able to access about 7 gig data or more. Yeah, so the next one is asynchronous operations. Although the asynchronous operations here for IndexedDB is not the one you usually do async await. It's a lot of it uses like callbacks function, which is also a con. But it has asynchronous operations, and that helps like with the performance and responsiveness of the web. The third one is blobs and files. I've mentioned this, and you can be able to store different things, different files, image, videos, and whatever JavaScript supports, kind of. You can be able to store that in IndexedDB storage. Like others, we also have offline capability of IndexedDB. Most progressive web apps and usually sites that allow you submit like offline forms use IndexedDB because it has it's already stored in the user's browser, so the users can access it without the need for data. So again, the cons, complexity. So we'll see this when we're writing the code. it's really a lot. You'd have to be writing a lot of callback functions on success, on upgrade needed, on error, and also on complete for the different types. Yeah, that is why I usually recommend Dexy. You can use Dexy if you like as a library, and it also supports TypeScript. The next one is browser support variation. So this is usual to front-end developers. I mean, you could write some code on Chrome and it won't work on Safari. You could write on Safari and it could not work on Mozilla. So it's limited to client side, of course. You can't be storing hidden data or sensitive data rather that you want to you don't want to show the client on the you don't want to very sensitive data on the client side. So the next one is storage quotas. So I mentioned this in the large storage capacity. So it also depends on the user. It also depends on the user storage. So for example, if you are dealing with I don't know why you do that, but if you are dealing with like 12 gig of data with IndexedDB, and the user has like 10 gig of space, and then probably 8 gig is allocated to Chrome, which is what IndexedDB will access. Your app might literally crash because that is more than the storage. It should give an error close to something that the local storage gave when we were testing the limit of the local storage. The next is IndexedDB. So this is where we would be writing a code and we would see how not complex, how long this code tends to be. So yeah, I think it's time to use the IndexedDB API. Stop sharing and share my other screen. Okay, that screen, screen one. Cool. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, Tuedon, we can see your screen.
Good. So yeah, I think the first thing we need to do is open a connection with IndexedDB. But first, I would need to put this guy here. So I want to put this guy here. Okay, I've not introduced the codes. So we have some preloaded codes because I do not want to be writing a lot of UI on this call, which is for IndexedDB. So we have an index HTML, which is basically just used with CDN Tailwind, and yeah, of course, used Tailwind. And this is how it probably looks like. It's just minimized. We have a add new tags, the hour we want to add, the minute, the day, and the month and the year. And this is where we'll be checking out the IndexedDB storage. So the next code that is here are the kind of preloaded code too. So I did a query selector on what I would need to use and add event listener. And this is the list all tax UI. As we said, we don't want to kind of be writing UI on this call. And this is for the deletes. This is for just data. Okay, so yeah, I can start writing my code. So the first thing we'll write is we want to use alert because we'll be changing this taxdb most times. This taxdb is meant for to get the result of while opening the IndexedDB API. Because we want to use it globally and we do not just want to use it and want it to be like changeable. That's why we're using let and taxdb. Yeah. So the first thing we need to do is open our DB, and then we would have open DB right here. And IndexedDB has an API, of course, just like local storage, session storage. We can easily access the IndexedDB API, and You just need to do a open and taxdb string. Yeah, so I have those loaded. And the second thing it takes is a version. Now, what version does is there's a callback from the, which we would write later. There's a callback from this where it is on upgrade needed. That upgrade needed only runs when this version changes, and we need that probably when we are adding more schemas, else that's wouldn't run. So yeah, we'll be writing some, we'll be using the on upgrade needed. So yeah. Now that currently we are getting IntelliSense, but after some time we would not get in the from IntelliSense. So yeah, because it is JavaScript. Because so we have, it takes in an argument which is events, and then we come in here and put event dot target dot results. Now this particular database for IndexedDB should have been opened right here. So we have it here, but there is nothing here. And this guy only runs, this on upgrade only runs when we change this. So after we have written our code that we have created our like object store, we would need to update this version here. So the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm using a live server, and live server literally just saves my code on every key click. So we want to create an object store. And again, this returns more function, which is like on success, it returns on success, on error, and yeah, it should return on upgrade needed, just like this. And what we need to do is to have taxdb this on error, and again a callback. We are going to write a lot of callbacks. What do we want to do? We want to log it out in case we have any error. Okay. So now it's time to like create an object store. But we also need to, so we can't have like duplicate object stores. So we want to write an if function currently to check if the object store is already created, and if it's not created, create an object store. So that's what we're going to do. And taxdb, yeah, taxdb, yeah, I'm correct. Taxdb, it takes in, so again, we have stopped getting IntelliSense, which I don't know is the frustrating part of this guy here. So we should have object store, I think, and then have like names. And this should kind of return an array, if I'm not mistaken. And we want to, so what we want to do is to check if in the object store names inside that DB, there is one that exists, the tax list store, just like this. So we have the transaction store. So right here again, what we're writing here is if inside the tax DB, which is this guy here, if inside the tax DB, the object stores names, if it does not contain the tax list store, then we want to create one. So again, we're writing this guy so that we would have it global in the if and else statements. So object store again, taxdb. So now what we can do is create object store. again, no intelligence, which is the frustrating part. Okay, so create option create object store takes two things like you can see here. It takes the name, so the name of what we want to give the object store, which is static store, and an options, which for us would be writing key parts, and like, so it has a key part, it has a key part, and what the key part does is similar to what would happen when you store like a primary key. So, and we don't want to have our own generic function for creating IDs. So we just want to put in auto increment. So what this does is IndexedDB or the JavaScript helps you to kind of like create it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the ID and on till you stop. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is create an object, an index. The next thing we want to do is to create an index. And what index does is it literally helps you to be able to see your data and kind of sort your data. But we really don't need it in this particular one, since we'll just be like getting it by ID. But regardless, I would still want to put it for more visibility. So what I want to do now is to have an array, because I want to loop and create an index for each of the properties we want to use. So we would have something like tax object store, and have an ID, have a title, have an hour. The hours are, so we have minutes like this. We have day, we have months, we have year, and we have this one, which is like is completed. Okay, cool. And what we do want to do here is have like, or maybe I should just use this opportunity to show what version does. So yeah, let me remove. So I moved is complete. We would have that when we update the version. So the next thing we want to do is actually create this index. So what I'm going to do is just loop through it with for each and value. And okay, so we have object store, which is what we have here, and what's the callback, what this returns. So we have object store. Then this also has an API, which again doesn't give us IntelliSense. We should be able to create index. So index takes two things, like you can see here, the name and the key parts. And remember, we put key parts here. Key parts are literally like kind of primary keys, but we can. This is literally not a primary key; it's just a way you can sort your object store. So what we'll do is we'll have value and value. So this is for the name, and this is for the key parts. We want it to be the same thing. Okay. What else? Okay. So we'll actually be doing the same here else. But we'll be doing, since we don't want to create an object store again when we have an object store, we'll just be putting this guy here. So it's still the same thing as this code. And also need to put object store, because we do not have any object again, which would do an event. dots. This is really a pain. So and transaction, draft transaction, and again object store. So what this does is just collect the object store data because it already exists. It just gives it back the API of what's close to what we would have here. So now we can go back to our code and we'll see that we do not have any object store. Why is that? The reason is because of the version and where we put in our code. So where we put in our code is in the on upgrade needed, and on upgrade needed again always runs, only runs rather, when the version is updated. So we would just change this guy to 2, and we should see the object store here. So we have the ID, our indexes, and yeah, the main key part. Yeah, so again, I wanted to show what version does by, so I omitted is completed right here. And I'll be adding a new field, so is completed. And since the user already has a version already, which is 2, now it has changed to 2 because we changed it to 2. Since it's like that, it won't have like it won't have the is completed because we didn't change the version, it's still using this version. But once we change this guy to 3, we should be seeing the is completed right here. So we should have is completed, probably our coding on tags, auto increment to create index, go. So for some weird reasons, we are not literally seeing index. Okay, cool. We have an error. So failed to execute, blah, 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 blah. An index with the specified name already exists. Okay, cool. So because we have like an index already, like these guys have already been created, this year, month, day, minute, our title and ID has been created already. We would be doing a minor thing, which is kind of bad. Well, yeah. Let's do this. Yeah, so we should be seeing it's completed. Hopefully we don't need that again. Okay, so the next one is for us to start actually our code operation, which is create, read, update, and delete on this IndexedDB. So we want to store files. As you can see, we do not have any data inside the taxi store. Yeah. So okay, yeah. So we have our tax form here, which is this guy, and we have our on submit. So on submit event listener, calling on submit because it's here. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is what we usually do to forms, which is d dot prevent default, which just doesn't make it be like a kind of get request where we have the old data right here. And we want to add some minor validation. So we do already have like the HTML validation, which is required. Everything is literally required. But just to be safe, we can add in the others. So we have title.value. We have title.value. So if title.value kind of is a string, this doesn't concern IndexedDB. Same thing. What do we have? Minutes, day. Okay. So minutes. dot value plus minutes, month, day, month, year. Okay, cool. Almost done. Day value, month dot value. Oops. Okay, so we have all. And what do we have last year? Oops. So yeah, I'm just going to format this guy. Didn't work. What happened? Okay. Yeah, so I'm just going to format this guy right here. Cool. And if these guys are empty, we want to do all fields are required. Okay, cool. So the next step is to actually create our object, just like you would when you want to submit a form, which is, let's put it as new tax. Title, we have title just like we have here. So we would have title.value. Hour. We have hour dot value. What else? Minute dot value. D dot value. Again, month. This is diary. Month dot value. Yeah. Yeah, dot value. And once the default is completed, which is the last one we added, is completed, it will be false on creation. So now down to like actual IndexedDB stuff. Yeah. So what we want to do is use the taxdb. Remember that the taxdb is what we have here and is what is in the database we kind of like opened. So it's the result of the database we opened. Yeah. So taxdb. So sorry. We have to do the tax list transaction. Tax list transaction. And then this would be taxdb. So taxdb again has a transaction which takes in the store name, which you can see here, or names. So it can be a string or array, and also the kind of like the permission. So this mode is usually like the permission and also options. But we would be using the two, which is would be creating our transaction, we're checking our transaction store. And what assets do we want? We want a read-write access. A read-write access. Oops. This is supposed to be in strings. Read-write access. So we all know what a read-write access is. You can read the file and write to like the database rather. So again, this returns a tax object. So this kind of returns the store. Have like a tax object store. Not the store. We have the tax list transactions, which has a wonderful API, which is the object store. And what does this object store takes? It's actually telling the transaction to kind of find the store needed, the name of the store. And the name of our store is still the same thing, which is transaction stores. Okay. And now for us to add a new item, what do you want us to use add? Again, remember that these guys have callback functions, same thing on success, on error, but I'm not currently using it. So add item request. And again, so tagged object store is going to just be a simple API inside the tags object store, which is just add. So we can add, and what do we want to add? We want to add this wonderful guys here, which is like the new tags. New tags. Okay, cool. So again, we have this add item has like a on success, so we can use the on success to kind of have an they always have like an event. Oops. Almost forgot how to write the callback function. Okay, cool. So what we just want to do for now is console.log the tags. So tags created, we can put tags created. And again, we want to set our values to clean up our form, add value. Minutes.value, p.value, months.value, year.value. Okay, so we can now come out and try to kind of test our API. So let's see. Okay, so we have let's move to console. So we should be seeing tags created also. Oh, yeah. So tests. I'll just be testing this guy. Give it wonderful timelines. March 2024. It has passed. Let's put this. We didn't have the validation for if it has passed. So yeah. Oh, okay. Canality reading transactions. Cool. Okay. So where do we have that? TaxDB. Where do we have this error? So we have an error, which is the painful part of dealing with IndexedDB APIs. So we have an error here. It says cannot read property of undefined for TaxDB. Cool. So that means we do not have anything relating to TaxDB here. Oh, okay, cool. So we didn't add an unsuccess. So remember I told you that once this guy only runs when the version is updated. If we do update the version now, we would have a TaxDB, but we don't want to be updating the version every time we want to change something. So it has an unsuccess. Again, they all have an event. So on success, when the database opens, we want to put TaxDB in it, and vendor target the results. Same thing we are doing here. Okay, cool. So we should have again tests. Hopefully it should work this time. 2025. Let's see. Cool, did work. We have a console which says tags created, and in our application, yeah, we are seeing data will be still, so we can update it, which is what we see here, the day, the hour, ID. Again, if we create another one, it will be 2 because of the auto increment we did. It's complete false, completed false, minutes, month, title, and year. So we are being able to successfully create Now we want to kind of read the data, which is the next step. And what we do here is we'd have to create a function and pass it inside the onSuccess. Do we need it in the, no, I don't think we need it in the onUpgrade yet. So we need it in the onSuccess, and every time we create a new one, would add the function here. So yeah, again, we have this our tax UI here, which would help us show the data right here. So function, have a function, get all tax. So, yeah, get all tax. Oops, get all tax. What was wrong? Okay, get all tax. And open our function. And we have our helper here, which is the tax list ID. So this is where I will be manipulating the DOM to show the tax, So we have tax list, and we always want to reset the HTML when this is run, so that we do not have it's just coming up every time, and having the same duplicate data. Again, what we want to do is similar to what we did here, which is to get transactions, and then we get like the store. So try and write it again. Put it inside here. And yeah. Object store. Yeah, good. And now again, IndexedDB, that is the object store, has a wonderful API, which is the Open Cursor. Now, Open Cursor actually helps you to kind of map through the data in the IndexedDB. On success, and yeah, again, it has an event here in the callback function. So the next step for us to do is to have the results inside this data. So it will literally return, just like when you loop through an array of objects, it would return the data that you want or that you need. So just put cursor here and have, again, what we have been doing for every our callback functions is event.target.results, so which is what we use. Where did we use it? Yeah, we used it here, and in every place we have callback functions. So we have event.target.results, and we want to check if we have a cursor, so we do not get undefined. We want the tax. So we want the tax to have like the value. So we want the tax, cursor returns a value. So dot value. And this is where we would actually have to use our UI I stored here, so we don't start creating new UI. So we have div, and we'll do the old document, not create elements. Oof, this is really a pain. Do document of create element, and want to create a div. Yeah, that's what we want. And right here, I have my div.html, which is going to be this div.html, in HTML rather, and put this guys in it. So this is just a UI, nothing fancy. Okay, cool. Aha. So what do we have here? Okay, so this guy here is for the data states. For I'm using shade CN. So once you click it removes, and once it is completed, it checks out. Okay, so what do we want to do? We just want to read the data. Okay, why am I having errors here? Wonderful. I didn't close it. Cool. Okay, do we have any other errors? Oh, okay, I'm supposed to close it here. Cool. Yeah. What do we have? What are we missing? Okay, yeah. So this is basically, we have not rendered our data. So we want to have some data here. This should be is completed. Cool. So we want to have our data here. And where else than here in test? So what we need to do, we are using a template string. So what we can do is something like this. And since we have the value from the cursor inside the tax variable, what we need to do is just tax dot the name of the index that we created and that we want to show. So that would be index title, and what we would have here is literally just the date. So we're going to just put it just put a date dot, I think day is that day. Yeah, we should have day 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 tax dot month and tax dot year, I think. Yeah, so this should be what we have. And yeah, I think the next one, since we're just going to show the data, we just need to, after right here, we need to do a tax list and just append the child of the div. And again, since it is looping, we would be putting cursor dot continue. So remember, this is still inside the if statement. So if there's no longer any cursor, if there's not any data for it to map, it would be outside here, and then it stops. It doesn't continue. So we need to put these guys in where we need them in each of the callbacks, which would be on success. First of all, that would be on success, which would be here, and we can put it here, and we can also put it when the tax is created. So when a tax is created, we can put it get our tax. Yeah. So we should be seeing, oh, okay, my guy has crashed. So hopefully it starts back. Good. Yeah. So we are seeing our test data, which is seeing our test data and our date that we added, which is supposed to be inside. Let's refresh this guy. How did I even check? Let me stop here. Since it crashed. Yeah. Cool. So we have tax store, which is right here, and we have our data, and then our data is showing. So since we have done read, we want to update this guy. So once we click here, we want the checkbox to tick so that we have completed the tax, which will take us to update. So we'll be creating an update function, which should be quicker. So update tax. And this should take in an ID because we need the ID. And again, the same thing we'll be doing here. It's just what we did above. Read write, yeah. Well, this should really read only, but doesn't matter. Okay, so we read write the same thing, taxes, object store. And what is different here is we are making a request to get the get probably like the tax. So we would want to do request. I want to do request and tax object store. Dot gets, again, the API from the object store are usually just simple and straightforward. So we have get, and once this is successful, again, we would have a pane for callbacks. Dot success. Okay, so we want to get the tax response, which would be the current tax that we want to update. It would be tax response, and again, we have our normal events, target, results for the IndexedDB API. So we'll do something here, which is tax response is completed, which is one of our indexes that we created. So is completed. Okay, oops, I've not put my event. So is completed. If it is completed, we would, if it is, we don't want to negate the value, which would be response dot is completed. Is completed. Ooh, cool. Again, in future, I might have a false value. So, so again, now we want to update the tax, which is we want to say the variable as tax updates and tax object store, which is what we have here. Oops. And we want to put in the tax response. So we have dot puts, then which is just close to the normal HTTP verbs. And again, we want to put our fancy old callbacks, which are pins on success, should have on success, and our normal events, just on success, we want to get all tax again. So this is for the updates, and we want to put this function where we are clicking the button. So that would be right here. So on click, is it on click or on click? So we have an on click, and then update tax. Cool. And then we would have our template here, and then we should have cursor dot id or tax.id. Yeah. So we do want to update this guy, and we should be able to update it. Yeah. So forgive my checkbox. Yeah. So it definitely works, and we should be seeing an updated data, which is complete true right here. Cool. The next stuff we are going to do, which is the last one, is the delete. Function delete tax, and again we just want the ID. It's going to be similar to what we did in tax completed, but I think this is more straightforward. So we'd have these three things: tax list transaction, tax object store, and tax request, because we want to get the ID of of the object store. Cool. And the next thing is literally just the delete. That's all. So again, it's similar to what the HTTP devs have. And we just do tax request callbacks again, and then have this guy. And what we want to do here is our get all tax. So we literally have to be putting the get all tax on every request we're making. And we have our button here, which is like the delete tax button. Should have it click right here. Delete tax. Oof, sorry, what did we put? Oh, okay, yeah, delete tax. Cool. So we have delete tax, and again, we just need the ID, so we'll put the tax.id. Cool. Yeah. So let's I think it's refreshed by itself. So another test. Let's do another test. And then just do the 3 operations. That's all. So let's create this. Yeah, cool. We have it. We have another tax which it causes, and then we just delete it. Cool. So that is the painful way of like doing a code obfuscation with IndexedDB. It uses a lot of callbacks, a lot of old callbacks, a lot of boring stuff, if I may put. But yeah, I would usually recommend you to use Dexy library. And Dexy library is just literally a wrapper for IndexedDB, which supports TypeScript. Which if you love TypeScript, it is fun, because what we are seeing here, we're not getting any IntelliSense because we are currently using vanilla JavaScript, which is plain HTML. If you want some extra resource, we have MDN resource, which I linked to the presentation. We have Codesteel, my best Udemy author, and then we have Geek4Geeks IndexedDB resource. So that is all. I hope you are not bored. And yeah.
All right, so thank you very much. I think this was really, really nice. Having to work with the entirety of application like to-do list and all of that directly on the client side without having to, save state. Everything is just on the client side. You don't have to work with a backend API. I think this opens up lots of possibilities for front-end developers who want to work on exciting projects and they don't have a backend developer to collaborate with them. There are several things you can do by yourself without having to wait for a backend developer to implement that for you. And that's some of the things that IndexedDB gives you. So this is time for questions and answers. Who has a question? If you have a question, could you just raise your hand using the raise hand button, and I'll call you to ask your question. All right, while others, okay, we have a question from Victor. Victor, please go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Nice presentation, Tuedon. Yeah, so you at the end of your presentation, you helped answer one of my questions, which was, aside using IndexedDB on the browser, are there other packages or APIs that wrap around IndexedDB? And you shared Dexy.js. But I see that Dexy has a cloud platform, but are there other platforms other than Dexy that wraps around IndexedDB and also allows you to host an instance of IndexedDB? Is that possible?
So when I was like checking, I saw one IndexedDB wrapper for React, but I don't think it is maintained. Oh, am I speaking? Okay, cool.
Yes.
So I don't think it is actually maintained. I saw a React IndexedDB wrapper while researching. But yeah.
Okay. Okay. I can also recommend one. There's this called Local Forage. I'll just drop the link in the chat section. I used this some time ago. while implementing feature for offline forms. So you can take a look at it. Local storage wraps around IndexedDB, local storage, and yeah, I think cookies. So it's quite varied. You'd love it. Love it. It's really easy to use. Yes. Do we have any other questions? Who else has a question? So we'll take that question. So one question I'd like to ask is, so I noticed you can interact with IndexedDB. I mean, IndexedDB is just like a database. So I want to know, how would you do things like performing joins with IndexedDB? Let me explain what I mean by joins. Since you have a front-end background primarily. So on the back end, we have, let's say you have a task, and you have a store called task, you have a store called users, and you assign tasks to, like, when you store the task, you also store the ID of the user. Do you get it? Now let's say I wanted to retrieve all the tasks by a particular user. How would I do that with IndexedDB? Because each task already has the ID of the user that created the task. How would I do something like that with IndexedDB? Is it possible to, like, is there an inbuilt filter function for IndexedDB, or will I have to look through all the tasks in the database to get info?
So IndexedDB actually has like a query. I think so. IndexedDB has like a query where you can query different stores. So if you see, like, in transactions, I think we had it's either it takes a string or an array. So we can literally have different stores in that particular transactions, and I think we should be able to get we should be able to filter them by IDs once we have, like, the arrays of the particular stores that we need in the transaction.
So more like native JavaScript filter, right?
Yeah, native JavaScript filter.
Okay, so we don't have anything like a filter that comes from IndexedDB that is probably way performant, because if I'm going to use JavaScript filter, I will have to load all the tasks into a variable which is being loaded into memory. And on the front end, where memory is really quite important, let's say I have 1,000 tasks or I have 10,000 tasks, we'll have some performance problem there. So yeah, but it's cool. I kind of expected they would have something really good to handle that. Okay, do you have any question again? We want to ask a question before we wrap up. Going once, going twice, and gone. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you, Tuedon, for sharing your knowledge on IndexedDB. So I'm going to be giving a few announcements on DevMeets. First, I'd like to let you know that future DevMeets sessions will be streamed on YouTube Live, so that we can reach out to more people who are not able to join Google Meet, but you can find it on YouTube. So we're streaming on YouTube directly for our next meeting. By the way, I'd like to let you know that next meeting will be in 2 weeks' time or thereabouts. You see it on the website, meets.sh. You can see all the updates for past meetings and future meetings that are coming up. The second announcement I'd like to let you know is that so far, whenever we have meetings, aside from posting on the group chats and on Twitter, we've had to post message on group chat, which I do not enjoy, I do not like, because it just spams the group. To avoid that, we've created a channel for DevMeets. I created a channel. I'll be dropping the link in the chat section right now. So just follow the channel, and from there, I'll be dropping updates on everything that has to do with DevMeets, including slides for this session, additional resources for this particular session, and all of that sessions. I'll also be dropping updates there and everything you need to know on DevMeets on that channel. So I'd like you to click on that link and just follow that channel. I wouldn't mind if you share the channel in your status so others can easily find updates on DevMeets, and I would stop posting on the group chat. So with that, that will be all for today. Tuedon, thank you once again, and thanks everyone for joining. Don't forget to follow on Twitter and also on YouTube, on X actually, and on YouTube. All right, guys, take care. Have a nice week ahead. Eat well and sleep well and rest well. Bye.